And now I move on to the next person, Srivijaya Narayan, and she is clinical. She's into clinical dental expertise and a deep regulatory affair knowledge person, and she is committed to promote healthcare innovations that meet regulatory requirements and provide real values to the patients. And she aims to enhance the dental care while ensuring the highest standards of safety, efficacy, and which are maintained actually. So, her ultimate goal is to align the regulatory compliance with patient-focused care to improve healthcare outcomes. That really sounds great. I'm just waiting to listen to the speech because there is a lot in the introduction. I just want to understand what she's going to speak in the presentation. So, Srivijay, it's all yours now, and you can start with your presentation.
Hi everyone. Is it audible?
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
Yes. Thank you so much for today. And there was a lot of great presentations. And even Rajashri actually like spoke much about like ethics and like how we are going to handle the patient's data somewhat similar or like the basic of what I'm going to speak about in more of like a regulatory aspects. So we spoke about more of like a population health and disease prevention, but our mission as a healthcare professional is also to heal and also to protect. So, but I would say there's a silent epidemic that we are actually missing. That it be the ransomware attacks or the cyber attacks, which has been happening in the hospitals or the clinics in the day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
So, I would say in a one of the major breach that happened in US, there were like 2.7 million Americans had lost their personal health data that is being stolen from one of the hospitals and the dental chains as well. In this, we are just not talking about the cybersecurity issues. It's actually a public health crisis. So, the digitalization of the healthcare is exposing vulnerabilities that threaten everything we stand for. Uh, can you share the presentation if you don't mind?
Yeah, we are going to do it for you. Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, we are going to talk about the sector that is the dentistry, which has already been under attack, not only in US but all the several areas of or the several countries, and it is not just the one part; it's a warning sign for all the healthcare sectors as well. Can we move on to next slide, please? So this is what the modern dentistry actually looks like. So every tool that you see here, whether it's a 3D scanner or the CAD/CAM systems or the AI diagnostic software, is essentially a computer processing a patient data. Though with these, AI can flag the areas of concerns that actually a dentist may or any other dentist in the world might miss, but the same sensor can also store the biometric data as well that AI access patient histories, revealing for more than dental health. Like it can be insurance data, or then it can be SSN, or it can be any other payments or future or like previous histories that's been present for that particular patients. Though we are embracing all these digital transformation in dentistry or any other part of the healthcare, but if we consider a smaller healthcare facilities, we are not understanding the implications or the challenges or the consequences that the cyber things or the digitalization is implying on us. So we are actually creating a treasure trove of data with minimal protection, to be honest. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So here is what troubles the most. As you can see, there are a lot of numbers, and the numbers are not small. The communities which are most vulnerable to these health disparities are also most vulnerable to these technological failures. For instance, as I've mentioned before, the AI diagnostics tool, which used to do disease diagnosis, whether it's a dental disease or the healthcare disease, has been trained with 80% of the data with Asian data only. But if you have to use that particular AI software in any other diverse population, the accuracy tremendously drops. So the rush to the digitalizations in the healthcare is widening gaps we have with decades to close. So also the rural clinics or the rural hospitals, they can't afford cybersecurities or like they can't afford the IT person as such. The community health centers lack the cyber health support. The same technology meant to democratize healthcare is creating a new barrier among us.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. So, if you see this growth trajectory, the dental software market is actually doubling in a decade. The AI accuracy has reached 98.8% in controlled settings, and practice management softwares are becoming a 7.6 billion industry.
Mhm.
Even though the companies are getting a lot of money out of it, but if one thing goes wrong, the entire company will be like sued or there will be a lot of financial loss. We'll be talking about that in later, but yeah. So every month or every year, the healthcare faces like 1.4 billion cyber attacks. And if you take small practices like dental clinics, whether it's a very small practice, they have just started and incorporated the AI dental systems, they are the primary targets. So they have a valuable data, but they don't have that much of protections.
Mhm.
So when a rural health clinics get ransomed, it's not just an IT problem or like it's not just one particular patient problem that will create a more of a, like a public health emergency because patient will not be able to get their medications, people will not be able to get the diagnosis immediately that they have to, and the preventative care just stopped right away there. So the shift from the paper records that we have been using or like we are using right now as well, theft to more of like a sophisticated hacking practices right now. And this fundamental change has created more of like a healthcare vulnerability. So this is more promising concern. And this is not about like an individual concern, as I've mentioned before. This is more of like a population level or like more public health level threats. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So yeah, now we have spoken about like what is the thing, how the industry is being hacked with the cyber things and all. But coming on to my aspect, like what's the regulatory point of view? So before and all, like before March 2023, FDA, that is Federal Drug Administration, they told like, okay, fine, if you're having a cybersecurity or like an AI thing in your medical device, you don't have to give much of like documents or like reports to us. We will approve it.
Mhm.
But after March 2023, the FDA mandated that every medical device that has an AI or the cybersecurity must have to go under extreme scrutiny. They have to provide the records, they have to provide the documents, they have to tell what the data is being used for and what all the data have been collected and what the end result of that particular data. Everything have to be provided to FDA if you're using the AI or the software in your medical device. From my perspective, as a regulatory perspective, it is kind of frustrating because you have to submit documents, you have to make a lot of paperwork, talk with FDA, and talking with FDA is actually a very big thing. Like you have to make a lot of effort and you have to prepare for everything, and that's like a barrier between a good care coming into the market and like making a lot of paperwork and doing a frustrative things. But if you think in a different way, or if I have to reframe this in a different way, uh, there were drugs which in the previous years they had like medical interventions and they need a rigorous oversight to prevent harm. That applies same to the digital health tools as well. So when an AI misdiagnosis, when a hacked device delivers wrong treatment, when compromised records destroy lives, that's a medical harm too. So the new requirements aren't bureaucracy, they are public health protection. Yes, approval takes longer. There will be a financial cost for that. The compliance will be costing more. But the alternative is that the unchecked technology harming patient is unacceptable. So the challenge for us as a healthcare leaders is ensuring these protections don't become barriers to care. Next slide, please. Actually, this data and how the AI fails in the diagnosing while examining thousands of patients is that even though it outperforms the humans in sensitivity, as I've mentioned before, as a dentist like me or like any other dentist, they would not be able to accept, or like they will not be able to see the subtle changes in the dental cavities or like the dental tooth as such, because uh, those subtle changes are imperceptible to human eyes. I'm sorry, but with AI, we would be able to detect all these with the sensitivity of course, like 88% when compared to that of the human eye. But some AI software, if it is like hacked or if it is not working properly, as you have told before, then the patients who doesn't have any diagnose or doesn't have any disease will be misdiagnosed, have like they are having that particular disease. And
Mm.
if the patient is already having the disease, that it will tell like, no, the patient is not having the disease. Like
Mm.
that, there are like 136 patients that have been misdiagnosed and
Mm.
668 patients who have like missed the diagnose, later causing serious dental infections. I would say these aren't just like statistics. They are people harmed by overconfidence, I would say, in technologies as well. So for population health, this variability is catastrophic. That 88% heterogeneity means the same AI performs differently across different populations. So the technology trained on one democracy or like the one demographic area, as I've mentioned before, the if you use it in a diverse community, it actually fails. So
Yeah.
we are potentially systemizing health disparities through biased algorithms. So can you move to the next slide, please? So yeah, as I've mentioned before, the smaller clinics are the potential targets for the ransomwares or the cyber attacks because they are the soft underbelly of healthcare cybersecurity. We have all the data value of large hospital, but only some of them spend that money to protect the data. So in that case, many small clinics and hospitals are lacking that protections. In January 2025, the 2.7 million patients affected by breaches, they aren't just the dental records, they are the comprehensive health profiles, whether it can be insurance informations revealing those pre-existing conditions or the payment data or the family history or the financial history, whatever. It's like a lot of data that will be out of the system and it can be used by anyone. So for public health surveillance, compromised data integrity means we can't trust our own statistics as well. So, how can we track the disease patterns if the underlying data itself is affected or altered? How can we plan these interventions if patient records are held hostage? So, all these questions rise if you are like going to have like a small clinic with a dental device with AI softwares and cybersec systems. It's going to take a lot of toll on a dentist who is going to build that particular clinic with all the time and energy and money. They also have to look upon the protection that is actually needed, more lot of uh, thought behind that. So I think even though the small practices now are getting more awareness towards this, how we can like protect the data, and even though they are taking a small patient name itself, like even that the patient is going to give on the trust or the hope of that of the doctors, as Rajshri mentioned about the ethical and ethics. So as a trust is basically that you go to a dentist or like you go to a psychiatrist, you would be giving all the details based on the
Mhm.
trust on the particular doctor or the confidentiality between you and the doctor. So that all the things that will be in the dental software as such as the dental disease or the conditions about it. So everything has to be maintained and protected, even though it is a very small information of a particular patient. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So I would say cybersecurity must be a priority and it may cause a cascade of effect because when a healthcare facility is breached, a damage ripples outward. The financial impacts, like approximately $5 million, which is
Mm.
enough to close smaller practices. But the real cost is measured in delayed care, lost trust, as I've mentioned, and compromised health outcomes. There are also 30-year family practice which is being dissolved because of a breach, because the
Mhm.
patient felt betrayed, staff morale plummeted. The
Mhm.
psychological impact on providers is severe because we entered healthcare to heal, not to manage cybersec disasters. From a healthcare perspective, when practices are closed due to breaches, we lose access points to care. And if you take a dental care itself, like it's not just a dental care, it's actually related to other systemic conditions as well, like cardiac health, diabetic, and pregnancy outcomes whatsoever. Everything has been like interrelated. So lost dental practices means lost opportunities for this integrated multidisciplinary care. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yes. FDA has now become very strict after March 2023 Enforcement Authority Act because they told like, yeah, you need to submit all that we are asking us you to do. Because before that, it was like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. If the medical device is having AI or cybersec, it's fine. Like we will approve the device, but it's not after March 2023. And they have also created a 5 pillars for protections. So the one would be like SPOM, that is like software bill of materials. As you can see, like every product or like every ingredient or every uh, what's it, if you are buying a snack or something, you will see the ingredients, what's all present. That's actually this is software bill of materials, like what all the components are present or what the software are you using. Are you using any firewalls? Everything have to be mentioned in this software bill of materials. They need to know immediately if the something goes wrong in your device, what it is affected, and how can it be overcome with the probable solutions. And the next would be the coordinated vulnerability disclosure. So we would be able to create a safe channel for ethical hackers to report flaws before the criminals exploit them. So there will be a team of people like who can give them like, yeah, this is going to be the problem in the future, or like this is like a probable problem that's been happening around. So we have to be aware of that in our particular dental setup or the healthcare setup. That's what this team actually does. So we would be able to know whether there is any vulnerability in our software or in our medical device or dental device, so we can like overcome it. Next, the post-market surveillance. So in the regulatory aspect, it's not just only the product getting into the market, it's actually the we will be thinking or like we will be looking upon like after getting into the market, how the patient is using, is there any adverse events or is there any deaths being reported. Even I think like last year in King's College London, I guess so, there was a cyber attack and one patient died. So
Mhm.
death reporting to FDA is like a very big thing because even one adverse events have to be reported
Mhm.
immediately to the
Mhm.
FDA before even like that patient itself like reporting directly to them, because if you're getting a death report, then it's going to be a very big scrutiny for you from FDA to your company or the software or the device that you are being manufacturing. And refuse to accept authority is that FDA can now reject unsafe devices. This gives the regulation teeth. So this frameworks that we have mentioned before isn't just the red tape. I would say it's a systematic protection which is being modeled to these public health principles. So we have to prevent this so that we can like detect early and we can like respond early before everything has been like hampered or like all the whole company is going to bankruptcy. Can we move on to next slide, please? So SAMD is basically like software as a medical device. So software as a medical device is basically like you would be having a device or like for instance, there is a glucose monitoring device. So in that you are like using a software to
Mhm.
operate that particular glucose monitoring device. So that is actually called as a software as a medical device. So the matrix that you see here considers the healthcare situation's severity and the information significance. So scheduling software for routine cleaning, it can be like a lower risk, and but the AI diagnostics like oral cancers or like the AI diagnostic tool that has been like invasive, but also like important for more serious or uh, life-threatening disease conditions. This needs a strictest oversight. So understanding this classification helps the predicts cost, timeline, and requirements. So it's like focusing the vaccination efforts on the high risk population. We protect where the potential harm is greatest. So that's how this risk classification actually like evolves or like revolves around it. So I'm not going to talk much more about it because it's more of like a regulatory aspects. And if any of you are interested, I would like to explain it more in
Mhm.
via email or like via any other chat as well. So understanding the classification actually helps all these things to the lessen the cost and the timeline. And it's a difference between like a 6 month implementations and a 2 year struggle. So can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. The pathways to safe implementation, there are like different pathways for the FDA to approve your particular device, whether it's like a 510K or PMA or de novo pathway and abbreviated 510K. There are various pathways that you can like give or like make your product get into the market via FDA. So even though the success factors are clear, like complete documentations and especially cybersecurity affects since September 2023 gives you a strong predicate devices for comparison and also the clinical data meeting the FDA standards. All these things are interlinked so that like you can bring a safe and more effective and more public safety product into the market rather than just bringing a product into the market. So for healthcare professionals or the leaders. So this means like budgeting not just for the technology, but also for the compliance as well. So it means the longer implementation timelines, but safer outcomes. As I've mentioned before, if you're not like able to uh, put that much money at the beginning itself for the waivers effect at the end, you would be able to save a lot of money and you would be able to cut short the financial loss that's going to happen waivers in the end. So in that way, you would be able to get a much more better results and you would also sustain your business in the market as well.
Mhm.
So it's actually being rushing towards the market and going a step by step in a more effective and a safe manner, keeping the public health or the public safety in mind. That's what the FDA actually needs. So if you are giving that particular things, then you would be able to get your product approved into the market. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yes, cybersecurity, it's just not only you do at the end stage or like it's just not only you do at the beginning stage. It's actually a continuous process. So it's from the conception through the post-market surveillance. So this life cycle approach mirrors how we handle the infection control. For instance, uh, when I was doing my master's, so we used to sterilize our surgical instruments daily and we used to clean our dental chair daily. That's mean like it's like a continuous process. You don't want to contaminate the area. You don't want to cross contaminate the infections that the patient had before, whether if the patient is going to be treated later. So
Mhm.
that's how the process is. That's how the security also works. Like it has to be throughout the process, whether it's from the designing phase till the post-market surveillance. So in current practices, dentists have made security as routine as sterilization and monthly drills, continuous monitoring, and also rapid response protocols. It's not paranoia, it's actually a dentist or like the healthcare professional's responsibility, I would say. And in each phases, like a design phase, it will be including the threat modeling, and the developmental phase, you will be having like cybersecurity frameworks, and in validation, you would go beyond the function to cybersecurity, and the post-market surveillance would involve the vigilance activity as well. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So AI performance in the real world is so yeah, these metrics, as I've mentioned, like sensitivity with that of human eye and with that of the AI, which are imperceptible to the human eyes, we can like detect the disease conditions or the diseases which is not being diagnosed by the healthcare providers. These metrics show both promise and actually peril as well. So AI achieves 88% sensitivity versus 84% for humans. The AI that's 95% accurate in ideal condition drops to 60% with older equipments or diverse populations.
Mm,
So for health equality, this is crucial because we risk systemizing disparities if we don't validate across all populations we serve. So
mhm.
the message is clear that AI augments but doesn't replace the clinical judgments.
Right.
So it's a
Yeah.
powerful tool which is required in skillful or like skilled hands because even though there is AI, we can do everything, but it needs a human supervision. It cannot be done on its own because it can give more of false results. Because how you train the data, that's how it will give the results. If you train with good data, it will give you the good results. But you have to cross verify it whether the data that is being produced is valid and also it is accurate as well. You cannot just use that particular data or the particular results as such in your practice or like as such in the research statistics or whatever. It has to be cross verified under human uh, skillful hands or like under human perception, like whether it is accurate or whether it is not. That has to be concluded before using that particular things or like particular diagnosis that has to be made. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yes, healthcare's digital future is arriving fast and it's already been started more effectively and efficiently. But AI diagnostics achieving over 90% accuracy right now. The teledentistry is expanding across the underserved populations, and the predictive analytics is preventing the disease before even the symptoms is occurring. And on the other hand, FDA has adaptive frameworks for continuous learning systems. So based on the upgradation that every software is bringing or the every medical device is bringing, the FDA is also been accustomed to, okay, if this is coming, okay, this is what we need. If this is coming, okay, this is what we need. That's what like the AI has also reframed their what to say the guidances and the regulations. But
Mhm.
I would say the innovations without security is just disaster deferred, and we must demand both the progress as well as the protection. So for public health, this means we have to rethink how we deliver the care. We have to track the patient outcomes. We have to protect the populations. The opportunities are transformative, but only if we build on a secure foundations, right? That's what it actually means. Everything like we need base should be like very strong so that like we can build our uh, the building or the company or the market or
Right.
the financial aspect. Everything has to will be like over grown in a couple of years. So can we move on to the next slide? So the practical implications, I have already spoken a lot about this, but we have to start with the regulatory pathway selections. We spoke about a lot of like different pathways, how to get the product in the market, whether it's a 510K or abbreviated 510K, PMA pathway, or like de novo pathway. So we have to have like a comprehensive documentations, we have to submit it, and the continuous monitoring and update has to be done so that we can like transform the compliance from more of like a burden to a competitive advantage. Can we move on to the next slide? The risk management in healthcare technology actually follows this ISO 14971 standards because this will able to identify the hazards, whether it's the probability, severity, or evaluate the acceptability and also monitor continuously. So this matrix is not theoretical. It's actually a practical that's being used day to day in medical device companies. So high probability, severity, or like based on the immediate actions, or it's like outbreak response. We don't debate whether to act when lives are at stake, right? So we have to make whether the risk is going to be there and what kind of risk, whether it's based on the probability or the severity, they have to be monitored and get back to the solution immediately. So every risk that we identify in this via this risk matrix, we would be able to mitigate and protect the patients and preserve the trust basically in the healthcare innovations. That is the baseline for all the healthcare technologies that we are building actually. Can we move on to the next slide? So yeah, these are all the key messages I would say. So there is digital transformation, which is unstoppable, but it is also vulnerable as well. The security must be designed in and it cannot be added on actually. And compliance drives both innovation and protection. And the $4.25 billion dental software market represents just one segment of the healthcare digital future, but the success belongs to those who embrace both the opportunity as well as the responsibility. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So these are all the key takeaways that we have already spoken about, and we have to use the compliance, we have to use the risk-based approach and the regulatory strategy to bring a more safe and effective, and keeping the public health or the public safety in mind of the manufacturers or the business-minded people or the stakeholders, whomever it is. We have to look upon the public safety more than just getting the financial part or the just getting the reputation part of the for the business. So that's what the whole aspect of, even though the cybersecurity is going to be within your medical device or like within your dental devices, it has to be protected, it has to be monitored. There should be a human supervision as well. Can we go to the last slide, please? Yep. As Paulson said, like regulations need to catch up with the innovation, and in healthcare technology, I would say it's finally has. So we, the healthcare professionals, we are in great responsibility, and we understand both the promise of technology and the vulnerability of those we serve. So even though there is a digital transformations of the healthcare, and it's actually like strengthening rather than undermines the trust our patients place in us. So we have to look upon all the ethics that we have spoken about and all the regulations that we have spoken about in the previous slides. We have to think upon all this before getting our product, or like before thinking about the progress that we want to make in our healthcare industry. So thank you everyone for your attention, and thank you for listening. And I hope like we commit to make a more safer and innovative healthcare in the future. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep, that's a really excellent presentation, and you're very clear in your presentation, and the slides are also very excellent, very informative. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It's one of the best presentation we had today. So
Thank you.
really nice. And any queries, definitely we are there to get the
Sure.
queries. If you get any, definitely we are going to share it with you. So
Sure.
that's perfect, the presentation. And
Thank you.
thanks for your time. That's excellent. So I expect a big round of applause for Srividya for her presentation. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.